Welcome to All Home Care Matters, the show where we discuss all things home care, with discussions on important age-related matters and topics. Brought to you by Enriched Life Home Care Services, the #1 rated home care provider in Michigan by Top Rated Local.
Hello, and welcome back to All Home Care Matters. If this is your first time visiting us here at the show, we want to say thank you for taking time out to be with us today. We appreciate how valuable everyone's time is, and that's why we try and make each episode here at All Home Care Matters something that will hopefully matter to you. Today, we are honored to welcome back our friends from AlzAuthors to discuss their upcoming film festival. Welcome to All Home Care Matters. We have a special episode today. We are joined by the esteemed filmmakers that are working with AlzAuthors. And I want to first start with Marianne Shuko, co-founder of AlzAuthors, and Christy Byrne-Yates. Please share with our viewers and listeners what this episode's all about, ladies.
Hi, Lance. Thanks so much for including us on the podcast. We're really excited about our film festival. It's something we've been thinking about for a while. People who know us know that we're all about books and we're all about storytelling, but we also share blogs and podcasts, and we have shared films. Many of the authors in our collection have produced films. So we kind of thought it would be a good idea to get people together and try to share the films and have a discussion about them. So this is our 10th anniversary year, and we wanted to do something big and different. So we decided it's time to do the film festival. So it's just about ready to get started. It's the first film. Discussion will be in September, but it's time to start watching the films. So I'll let Christy tell you about how you can watch the films.
Sure. Well, and I am so excited because it is our 10th anniversary, and I really appreciate how much our founders, Vicky, Tapia, Jean Lee, and Marianne Shuko put together this amazing program, AlzAuthors. So this is why this is kind of our great way of highlighting that. So really, really cool, and really want to thank all of our filmmakers for agreeing to share their films with us. So they have been so generous in allowing us to provide you, when you register on our alzauthors.com website, and that's AlzAuthors.com. Did I spell that right? Mm-hmm. Authors? Okay, there we go. And that's where you'll register. And once you register, you'll get links to be able to see each of these films in the privacy of your own home, in your own timeline. And then we'll have an event each month. We have 2 in September, where we'll talk with the filmmaker about their film. And I think that's a really cool way to do this, because you don't have to show up to watch a film with everybody else. You're going to be able to watch it on your own timeline. And then you have an opportunity to meet the filmmakers. Now, that is a set date, and that schedule is available also when you register. So that's how you'll participate. And I think the times that we have had filmmakers on and been able to talk with them, it's been so great. The conversation is rich, and people, maybe somebody out there is a filmmaker or a budding filmmaker or just loves films. So this would be a great event for you. And we're hoping that we get lots of people to show up. We already have had great registration so far. So There's no limit. We can take you all. So go ahead and sign up.
Thank you, Christy. Thank you, Marianne. I want to start with the filmmakers before we get into the questions, and just have each of you share a little bit about who you are, why you made this film, and a little bit about the film. Mary Crescenzo, we'll start with you.
Hi, Lance. Good to see you.
Always good to see you.
I am Mary Crescenzo. I am the author of The Planet Alzheimer's Guide, How the Arts Can Transform the Life of Your Loved One and Your Own. I'm a playwright, and now I guess I'm a filmmaker. And I've been working many years, decades, with persons living with dementia and Alzheimer's. And I put this film together because it was actually a theatrical performance, and it has an origin, which I'm happy to get into if you'd like. But I decided to give it a different look, and films and plays can be and are different. And so I decided to do that. And I submitted it, and here I am with all these wonderful filmmakers.
Thank you, Mary. Next, we'll go to Susie Singer Carter. Welcome, Susie.
Well, thank you for having me. So I'm a filmmaker and started off in children's programming and went into features from television and did another children's tween program feature called Brats, and then Soul Surfer that I think you know all about, Lance, because your kids love it. But yeah, when I started going through my mom's journey with Alzheimer's, I really felt like there was so much story to tell. And I felt like every time I shared stories about what I was going through with my mom, I felt like people were leaning in. And I didn't think that they would. I thought that they would, check out. But instead they leaned in. And so I thought people have an appetite to know about this without knowing that they did, right? So I did a short film about 8 years ago, which was a scripted film. And now I'm doing about Alzheimer's called My Mom and the Girl. And then now I have a documentary that's a little bit different tone, but it's also going through something that I went through with my mom in the nursing home industry. And I thought, I think that there's ableism when it comes to Alzheimer's and dementia, and that it's important to point that out in all different facets of life. So that's why I did this.
Yeah, and I think we're very grateful that you did too, Susie. So thank you. Frank's not with us today, but Marianne, you're going to talk about his film.
Yes, Frank Silverstein is a veteran of television news. He worked for a lot of the networks and has produced a lot of film. And he did a short film. It's only 15 minutes, but it has a powerful impact. It's called Lousy, Love in the Time of Dementia. And it's about both of his parents who had dementia at the same time, locked and lost in their own little world. And it's about just, what it was like watching them. And what Frank would do when he would visit is, as a filmmaker, he just turned on his camera. It was his iPhone, and recorded some of the scenes and situations that he found himself in. And it's a quick little film, but it really shows a lot about what goes on and some of the common struggles that people have. But it also shows the love story between these two people who had dementia, and it really didn't bother them. Put it that way. I guess, as we all know, it bothers everybody else more than it bothered them. So. I recommend that they watch the film, and Frank has a lot to say about being a caregiver for two parents with dementia at the same time, which happens more often than we think. And I'm sorry he's not here today because he's a great guy, and you'll get to meet him when we do his film discussion.
Thank you, Marianne. Next, we'll go to Kitty Norton. Welcome back, Kitty. How are you?
Oh, good to be here, Lance. Good to be among all of you guys and a part of this 10th anniversary celebration. So, a lot like Susie, my film came out of my experience with caring for my mother. My sister and I co-cared for my mom the last 5 years of her life, and she was living with vascular dementia. And when I first got into this was in 2016, and there just was not a whole lot of storytelling about dementia, especially anything positive. And I think all of us, like, hey, there's no denying there's tragedy in this disease. There's no denying there's tragedy in the end of life. But for God's sake, stop beating me over the head with it. I've got a job to do, and I could really use some role models and some inspiration that is showing me how they're getting through it, even with the pitfalls and the rough spots. So after my journey was done, I had written a blog during our caregiver years with mom that really was about the good, the bad, and the oh so ugly. And I thought I want to make a documentary that shows this also. And I had made some really wonderful friends around the country. Virtually that I'd never gotten to meet in person. So after mom died, I thought, you know what, I'm just going to get into a car and I'm going to show up with a bottle of wine and a box of pizza. And if they let me in, we're going to talk. And then I thought, these conversations might be really helpful for others. And that's how the documentary came about. So yeah. And the cool thing is like it's on PBS right now. There's a PBS exclusive 1 hour version that's great. I'm so proud of it. But the one that you guys are showing is the uncut, uncensored, full on, bring it, 87-minute version of Wine, Women, and Dementia. And it's my favorite version. It's just no holds barred, and we just talk like caregivers talk, and I love it.
Yeah, and I will say real quick before we go to our next filmmaker, I've been able to watch Susie's film and your film, and they're just both tremendous. And I think they really bring to life what people go through, whether it's, in a facility like with Susie's film, or, you caring for your mom and then going to talk to these other family caregivers. I just can't recommend these films enough. And hopefully everybody will, register at alzauthors.com and, get to experience it as well. Next, we'll go to C. Nathaniel Brown. Welcome.
Thank you for having me, Lance. Thank you to All's Authors as well for this fantastic celebration of film. I go by Chuck, just so everybody knows. C. Nathaniel Brown is the Hollywood name. But The Present is my film that is a part of the festival, and it's one of 3 films that I've done centered around dementia. And this film is about a family's first Christmas after losing the matriarch of the family from Alzheimer's. And it kind of shares an intimate moment about adjusting to a holiday that was the mother's favorite holiday. And now she's gone. And how do you really still celebrate without her? And so it's just a glimpse of one family story. And the idea is we can look and have these conversations about these isolated incidents, but there are a lot of things that people will be able to relate to, even though this is one family story. You'll say, I can relate to that, or I know that. And so for me, filmmaking is giving us an opportunity to share stories, both narrative stories as well as nonfiction stories, where we're able to continue the conversations around a topic that, especially in the African American community, hasn't been talked about quite enough. And so we're trying to find creative ways to do that. And The Present is one of those ways.
No, that's tremendous. I want to stay with you, Chuck, and then we'll go back to Mary. But what did you learn about caregiving and or dementia when developing this film or one of your other 2 films that you've already created? And why do you think it's important, using storytelling and helping to, create your film? And how is the caregiving community as a whole benefiting from this?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the first film that I did was called That's My Brother. And it's basically an adaptation of my aunt and my cousin's story because my aunt was calling her daughter her sister. And so I did That's My Brother to, again, share that conversation and show what someone feels when their mother or father or grandmother or someone doesn't recognize them. How do you handle that? The second other film is called Remember Me, Dementia in the African American Community, which is a nonfiction documentary where we're actually talking to caregivers. We're talking to dementia experts. We're talking to people living with dementia. And this gives us an opportunity to see a full picture. And so even with those examples, I also have a book called Exposing Dementia, 8 Critical Takeaways for African Americans. My idea is that any opportunity to tell stories, whether it's narrative, whether it's nonfiction, these are ways to help people have that conversation. Because we know that there are, I think the new number is 63 million unpaid family caregivers now, but most of those people feel like they're doing it alone and nobody can relate or understand. And so I said, I'll find ways to have the conversations to let people know you're not alone. There are other people who are experiencing it, but then there are other resources that are available to help wherever you are in that journey.
Right. Absolutely. And that's very true. And I know a lot of our underserved, more minority populations, I had the conversation with somebody the other day who deals primarily in the indigenous communities, and because of past, I'll call them atrocities, they already don't have a trust of the medical and the healthcare community. So they try to deal and manage with things in their own way, culturally, socially. And so I think, it's tremendous that, you're trying to raise that awareness for the African American communities. That's really great, Chuck.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Mary, I want to go to you and, give you the same question that, we just asked Chuck. What is, what did you learn about caregiving or dementia while developing and filming and editing your film? And what do you feel is the importance of storytelling in the creation of your film and these other films in the care community as a whole?
Well, I continue to learn through my work since the 60s as a teenager with older adults, and then as a professional arts practitioner, and just working with this population that people don't understand the disease. There are myths about it. They think all of it is like down and terrible. And so when I started with this, it was actually a reaction. I never knew it would be a film or even a play. I would be coming home as a young professional in the field. Well, there was no field of arts engagement at the time, really, but I would be coming home and I'd just lose it in the car, start crying, and didn't know how to manage or process my feelings. So at night I would write these voices of monologues. They weren't even monologues; they were persona poems in the voices of the people I worked with. People I worked with, persons with dementia, the families, the staff. And I really was shocked by what I witnessed. And so then that became a play. And then this is the first time that this film, by the way, will be seen. It's really a theatrical production, but not as a whole. And it's hard to explain that, but you'll see it when you watch it, I hope. And I just feel that if this can be shared with more people than the play, because you have to drag 13 actors who play multiple roles here and there, that people will begin to understand or reevaluate their thoughts on this disease, on how to deal with it. The film is really about it comes from the inner voices of people that I witnessed, that I observed what they said, that I used my imagination to do that. And I think that when those voices can speak, it becomes a powerful and intense look at what they might be feeling, what the families are feeling, what they're saying if they could say it, what the families would say since they knew the person that they loved no longer can perhaps understand what they're saying. So it's always been my goal to bring this story and all the stories that I write to unlikely places so people can understand what it's all about, and then they get a chance to respond to it as well, that they're not alone, as you've all said. I hope that answers your question.
It does, Mary. Thank you. I want to go to Susie. Susie, I'd shared with you prior to the recording, we had just done a viewing party for your new film that was just released on the 1st of August, I believe, No Country for Old People. But I think you could do a lot better service if you do the introduction of the film and, kind of explain what you learned that maybe you didn't already know about, caregiving and dementia while you were creating the film, and how you're envisioning it helping the care community as a whole.
Okay, thank you. So, yeah, I think this documentary came out of my own experience with my mom in the nursing industry, that's what it is. And when I was going through the last 6 months of her life, which was a really hard, difficult period that wasn't expecting. I felt sucker punched, and I felt like I was not navigating it at all. I thought that I was a really good caregiver because I had caregiven for my mom for a very long time with Alzheimer's. And as hard as Alzheimer's was, at least I felt like I was doing the best I could. Well, I didn't feel like that in the nursing homes. And I thought that it was just maybe either me or this particular facility, which was a 5-star facility in Los Angeles. And um, as I'm going through it, the last 6 months of my mom's life, I knew I got to a point where I was saying, this is something, what planet am I on? Because no one's taking care of her. Doesn't matter what I say. It doesn't matter how nice I am or how unnice I am, whatever the case. I tried everything and nothing was working. And in the meantime, my mom was suffering. And when I looked around the facility, I saw she wasn't the only one. And so when I realized, that I saw so much and learned so much by the end of that journey, that as a storyteller, if I didn't pay it forward, if I didn't share what I learned, then I'm culpable as well. And I know that it is the easier way to go, because I talk to a lot of caregivers who say, I wanted to share my story, but I was so exhausted or so devastated or so depressed that I couldn't live there anymore. I couldn't live in that space. And I get it. It's really hard to live in that same space. For us, it was 3 years. And it's very difficult, but it is the gift in a way that you have this knowledge. And so it's almost your duty, to give it to others.
Right.
And so to go back and answer, what did I learn? I think that was probably, besides the egregiousness of much of our long-term care system that needs reform and has needed it for decades, there is such a stigma and a marginalization and ableism that occurs in the healthcare system, not just in our communities, but in our healthcare system when it comes to dementia.
Right.
And Alzheimer's. And I'll just say this one sentence. I had the chaplain come in to tell me one day when my mom was in hospice to say, don't worry, she's not really here. She has holes in her brain. She's demented.
Yeah.
And I was gutted. I was like, you don't know Alzheimer's at all. This woman I am communicating with her every time I'm here. And see, you have holes in your brain. Sorry, but these are the kinds of, and you've got professionals that are saying things like this, and it's so antiquated, and it's not, and I'm not, that's because they're not educated in it. And we need to educate people, because dementia is not, it's not a rare disease. It is something that, is an equal opportunity disease, and we should understand it better.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think people will, because of people like you guys, because of these films and because of AlzAuthors, people are going to get the information they need, hopefully, and they won't have to rely on, antiquated stigmas and myths and, chaplains that are stepping out of their lane and trying to become healthcare professionals. So we applaud and support the work you guys are doing. Marianne, I know Frank couldn't be here with us today. Did you want to add anything to his film? Did you learn anything while creating it?
I think that Frank did learn a lot about during his creating this film, and just bringing his camera out and videoing some of the situations that he found himself in with his parents, and the whole caregiving journey. He has a brother. His brother was the primary caregiver. Frank said that he wasn't the hands-on caregiver to his parents. He helped out. He was in that type of a role, but he said, my role was more about taking care of my brother. Yeah. And he had enough insight to see that although he wasn't the one managing his parents' day-to-day existence and all that entails, because they eventually ended up living with his brother, and they were about an hour and a half away, I think, from where Frank lived. He lives in New York City, but he knew that his brother needed support, and so he could help that way. And so that's like a realization I don't think a lot of people have when they have their sibling being the primary caregiver. So he learned that, and just to share what is going on, because there is a lot of stigma and silence, and it's not attractive. It's not like, like you're filming your parents on their best day.
Right.
and sharing what they're like. And this is like, it's really hard. And some of the scenes that he shows us, they're hard to watch. They're sad, but yet people need to know that this is what's going on in these families. And, he stepped up and he, exposed that.
Yeah, absolutely. Kitty, I want to go to you and kind of pose the same question. What did you learn about caregiving and or dementia while developing your film and editing your film? And what do you feel is the importance of storytelling in the creation of your film and these other films and the care community as a whole?
Yeah, Susie, you said something really interesting about people that you knew who are just like, I can't be in this space anymore. And I've known those people too. I don't think any of us are like, oh, I don't get that. I don't understand that. We're all like, yep, totally
Mhm.
get it. But I also found like everybody in the film that I asked to participate, we can't get out of this space. And it's like what you said, I don't want a whole nother generation of caregivers to have to reinvent the wheel. So here's what we figured out in the film. Here's our experiences. Here's some information for you. Now that you have this base, you, as the next generation, can figure out how you're going to tell your story and how you're going to get the next generation behind you a little further down the road. And I think that's the huge benefit of telling these stories. Not everybody in this space is going to relate to my film. Not everybody's going to, understand because they didn't go through the nursing home experience, but it doesn't matter because the people who do need this information are going to find it through people like us and people like the Al's authors telling their stories. Um, I don't think I learned that much about dementia while I was making the film because I had 5 years experience of it beforehand. And boy, that was a, dunk in the pool. But one thing that was very much reinforced in making the film and since then is the absolute critical importance of community. And I already knew that before I started making the film, but then just going to meet these people face to face, that was a huge like, wow, it feels even better. I even though my journey's over, I'm processing, I'm healing, it was amazing. And we just had someone screen last week who she sent me an email, one of the hostess, and she said, I can't believe the conversations that people started after the film because once they saw, 8 other caregivers tell their stories and really connect that way, that's what they wanted to do. And they sat there for the next 45 minutes going, well, do you remember when my mom did? Or remember when my husband ran down the street with, it's just like, and they had a sense of being able to process and laugh about things that may not have been at all funny at the time. But now it's like, okay, we're working through this. These stories are helping us. And I think that's what all of us in this podcast do. Even Lance, you're bringing people on to tell their own stories. It's hugely important.
Absolutely. Well, I'll just say, Kitty, I know, I don't know about any of you, but, we facilitate numerous caregiver support groups. And support groups are good for some and not for others. I get that. But what we hope by facilitating these support groups throughout Michigan is, like you just explained, Kitty, and what you kind of created your own support group on your road trip, right, through the film, is that these caregivers find some commonality and something to bond with others that are going through a similar situation. Because if your best friend is not a caregiver and your spouse or parent or whatever is healthy and you haven't experienced that, but your best friend is now a caregiver, you're going to be there for her. You'll listen to her, but you can't really appreciate it because you haven't gone through it. But with a support group or, bonding and meeting these other people, I think there's an instant, connection because of that shared experience. And then you can hopefully find that support through those experiences and help one another.
Absolutely. And I would say that even my friends who weren't going through this, it's my film's called Wine, Women, and Dementia because we found that a lot of us, would open a bottle of wine and then be able to really talk about our experiences. So even with my friends who weren't going through this, I'd say like, hey, I got to talk. You got to come over. I'm supplying the wine and you have to listen to my dementia stories. At least the first 45 minutes, and then you can talk. So you're right. It's like there's something about connecting with somebody who's been through the exact same thing that enhances that community, but just having anybody to talk to and help dispel some of that stigma if it hits their family next. They're going to remember, oh, what Kitty and her mom go through. Okay. Now we kind of have a baseline of where we might be starting with this. So
Absolutely. And it might even encourage them to adopt a dog too, right, Kitty?
yeah.
Yeah, I watched the film to get that one. Chuck, we're going to go back to you. We started this question with you, so we're going to lead off the next question with you. And you kind of alluded to this already, but who is your film intended for, and what are you hoping that they take away from your film?
Yeah, so I'm not one of the people that says, "Oh, my film is for everybody," because what I teach people about storytelling is you need to know the audience. And so one of the things that I do is I think of a person. It could be a relative, it could be a friend, and I try to tell the story to that person. And so it'll be centered around that demographic, age group, or whatever. And so specifically for the present, it's really about the person who lost a loved one. So it's kind of getting into that grieving process, which is another part that we don't talk about a lot. Grieving while the person is still here, grieving when the person is gone. And so it's that group of people that I really believe will gravitate to the story. But on the side of that, there are also other people. And one of the things that's very important is about maintaining memories during the process. And so this film also encourages that as well. So I think a lot of people will be able to see themselves in some of the characters there. But it's really designed to open up, people's eyes and creativity around that part of the process when it comes to grieving.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's extremely important. I know for my own experience caring for my father, for me personally, the anticipatory grief was the hardest because you don't know the day to day. The grieving after his passing, very difficult because that's, finality. But then you know that's finality. With the anticipatory grief for me, I didn't know day to day. So you're always kind of like looking over your shoulder. Is today the day? Is this going to be a good day? I think grieving as a whole is so crucial for people as part of the caregiving process and having that support and, understanding for what they're going to be going through or they are going through.
Especially around those significant dates, whether it's a birthday or Mother's Day, Father's Day, or in this situation, Christmas, those are dates that you look forward to. And now it's completely different. And so how do you handle that? How do you adjust to it? And so I think a lot of times with some of the, I would say, principles that we kind of incorporate into our storytelling, it's something that you can take from this experience and say, oh, I can apply this somewhere else.
Right.
And so hopefully that will be what people experience through the film.
Yeah, absolutely. Mary, I'm going to go to you and ask you, who is your film intended for, and what are you hoping that they take away from it?
It is intended for, excuse me, it is intended for anyone who has experienced dementia, Alzheimer's in their life with family member or friend. It's also for anyone who will ever know someone who has this disease. And I think that's everyone that we know, everyone. It's for all ages. There's one of the characters is a teenager from that perspective. And the second part of your question was?
What are you hoping that they take away from your film?
I hope they take away the idea, the notion that people with this disease are still humans. They are still people, that they function in the world with laughter, sadness, tears, regret, maybe none of those things. That's why I call it Planet Alzheimer's or Planet A, because it is a different world. It's a world of unintentional masquerade. It's a world where when those doors open in the play, you are entering as a visitor. And I want you to learn and understand that this is a world you are entering. And sometimes, as in Rome, we do as the Romans do. So we go around their culture, whatever they say, we go with it. It's just that I want people to know that you can communicate with a person with dementia on so many levels. My mentor said, don't let a spirit be gone. And I remember when he told me that way back when, let's just live our lives and let's live with these people. It's not easy, it's many different things, just to understand the humanity of dementia.
Yeah. And I hope they take that away from your film too, Mary, because I think everybody needs to know just because somebody's diagnosed or living with dementia doesn't mean they cease to exist or they're incapable or their feelings no longer exist. So I applaud you for that. Susie, how about you? Who's your film intended for and what are you hoping they take away from it?
Well, first, can I just jump off of what Mary said? I think it's so important what you're saying, Mary, is leaning into their, people with dementia, leaning into their world instead of trying to pull them back into our world, and giving them the respect and the grace to allow them to navigate their disease as much as it provides them. In other words, if someone loses the use of their legs, we don't say, well, you've got legs, walk, right? And so we adjust to their disability and we say, can I help you into your chair? Can I push your chair? Can I, but we still treat them as human beings. And if they say, no, I've got this, you respect it and you let them wheel themselves, right? And give them that autonomy as much as they can have it, because that's being a human being. If you lose a purpose, your purpose, you will lose your will to live. You will have a failure to thrive. And we have to learn that. And you're so right, Mary. There is so much communication that is happening. It's just different. It's if you have a child and they're under a year old and they don't speak yet, we still understand that when they're hungry, when they're happy, when they're sad, if they're in pain, and when they're happy to see you, it's all there. You just have to look. So I just wanted to jump off of that. What I would like, yeah, what I would like to say, like, what I hope people walk away with is information about our system, our healthcare system. And it really is for everybody, because this documentary, my mom is the conduit for it, as the other people that I interviewed. But it's not just our stories, it's really everybody's story, because getting older is a equal opportunity event. We, God willing, all will get older and continue. And as we do, don't we want a quality life? Don't we want our dignity and our respect and to be given that honor? It's not even an honor, it's a right. And that's what I hope people walk away with, and that and so that younger people that watch this understand that, and they're not doing la 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 like I did, like we all have done, because it's easier, it's scary, but when you lean in, it's like my daughter, who was a teen when I was doing my other film about Alzheimer's. People said, why are you keeping your mom with your daughter who's a teenager? That's so hard on her. And I didn't think about that. And then I asked a very good friend of mine who was a mentor, and she said, you couldn't be giving her a better model to go by. And by the end of that year, the best and worst year of my life, I call it, my daughter, when my mom had to move into assisted living, she said, I'm not ready for nanny to go. And it wasn't easy, but it was good.
Yeah.
So that's what I want people to know.
Yeah. I would also add, and don't think it can't happen to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Miriam, what do you think Frank would want people to take away from his film, and who do you think it was intended for?
I think it was intended for, people who may have a loved one with dementia or not. It's more of an educational kind of a thing. And I think that he would want people to walk away with an understanding of what this disease can be like, and that people are dealing with these kinds of difficulties, and that they need compassion and support.
Yeah, thank you. Kitty, how about you? Who's your film intended for, and what do you hope that they take away from it?
Wine Women and Dementia is really caregiver focused. It's definitely the dementia family caregiver experience. So it's primarily for us, to feel celebrated, to understand that you are not alone. It's very much about community and isolation, and that you can see that even just with these, 8 or 9 people in the film, that community just makes a world of difference for them, and they're not alone. As every time a story gets told, at the end of a screening, somebody will say, "That was me last night." That was me and my husband last night. Ah! I'm like, "Yep, we get it. We totally get it." So definitely that. I've been very proud that I've had a few people contact me after a screening to tell me that they're living with dementia, and that the film meant a lot to them too. And a few of those people have said, "I have more hope for my person who's helping me, that they're going to get through this." So that's just been like touching my heart. And then I also, just tell people, if you're dementia curious, come on by. We'll show you a little bit what it's like, that swing and dementia lifestyle.
Can I jump in there if I may? You mentioned, Kitty, people who have dementia seeing your film. It's important to me also, which I did not mention, is to have people who have dementia to see the film, see the play. And when we did it as a play, we had people coming who had dementia, and I was like, okay, these are the experts. What? Now I'm really nervous. And they spoke about and they spoke about the idea that, yeah, this is real. What you're telling us is how it is, and that's important for us as well. So thank you for mentioning that.
Thank you, Mary. Kitty, I don't want to speak for you, but I'm going to speak for myself. I think it's good and it's healthy because, you had a lot of humor in your film. You would use some humor and some levity during those difficult times. Is that fair to say or no?
Oh, absolutely. I come from a family that humor was one of the biggest tools in our toolkit to get through life anyway. So yes.
Yeah. And
Kitty can't help it. She's just hilarious anyway. So that brought the energy to others, which was amazing. I agree, Lance, that it really helped make it easier to have those conversations and say, "Yep, that was me. I remember when this happened."
Well, and I wanted to add that, and thank you, Chuck. I couldn't agree more. I wanted to add that because I think oftentimes, and we talk to countless families with our company every week, and I would say 8 out of 10, 7 out of 10, it's always doom and gloom. They don't see a hope. Kind of like, Mary, what you were saying, these people still are capable of love. They're still capable of feelings and all this stuff. But these families, because they're not aware, they don't have that background, they don't have the education, and they're not getting it from their doctor's office. It's all, grim reaper, dark thunderclouds, and there's no sunshine or rainbows. And there are going to be days, I think it's fair to say, that it will be like that. But there's also those good days where the sun is shining and your loved one is, sitting there reminiscing with you. And I think, Kitty, you put a great spotlight on that aspect of it, right? Where, it is okay to have a laugh and play a joke, and, you just kind of roll with it, and I think that's important. And I think it's a survival tip for getting through a caregiving journey sometimes, right?
It definitely was for us. And it's like the first time your person that you love and has been so patient and wonderful and sweet to you your whole life throws a plate at you. It bounces off your head. It may not be very funny at the time, but later on you can kind of be like, wow, I didn't know she had that strength to really knock me,
Yeah, good aim.
I know, you're kind of like, good on you, Mom. Yeah. So and not everybody's going to feel that way, but that's how this film is kind of presented. Like, if you can take away some of how all of us in the film looked at the world, then maybe that can make your journey a little easier. And if it doesn't, well, just maybe you got to laugh at our expense.
Yeah.
There's the other side of it too. If you've had a terrible relationship with that person, and now all of a sudden you're communicating and you're jolly and joyful, that is a shocker in certain ways. But again, it's coming to where that person is at that moment.
Yeah.
Mhm,
Absolutely.
mhm.
Chuck, I want to go to you and I want to kind of talk about the feedback you've received from your film. You want to share any feedback that's been extra meaningful to you or that's really stood out?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that when people identify a good idea, I'm going to say good, but it could be a great idea to them at that time, and they say, you know what, I'm going to do this because they saw something in the film. And I don't want to say specifically what it is because you got to see the film. But it created an opportunity for people to see something and say, you know what, I think this is a great idea. I'm going to do this with my loved one before it gets to a stage where I don't have it and say, I wish that I would have done this. I wish I would have said this.
Yeah.
And so I think these types of situations makes it easier for me to say, okay, how else can I create these opportunities? Because we can help in so many different ways. It's not just one way. It's not just going to school and becoming a neuropsychologist or something. You can do it through arts and you can do it through your voice, your stories. And so that's what I want to encourage people to do, even through this particular film. Because there are moments in there where I think people will say, you know what? I never thought about that. Let me do this.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you so much, Chuck. Mary, I want to go back to you and ask you, can you share any feedback that you've received or that's maybe stood out or has been more meaningful to you from your film?
Um, I think the film gives them permission to forgive themselves, the caregivers, for feeling angry, for feeling confused, for feeling all those feelings that they have in response to this, because the characters in the film are revealing themselves, which I think allows the viewer to reveal that their own self and their feelings. Um, so again, repeat what you said. I'm still thinking of what Chuck said.
Yeah,
Repeat
so
what
I
you.
was just wondering if you had any feedback that has been more meaningful or has stood out to you that you've received from your film.
Uh, People say I'm not alone. People say I've experienced that. I wish I could have done that. I would have loved to do this. Just they know that there's community out there. And if they find it through the arts or through creativity or through a film, then all the better.
Yeah, absolutely. How about for you, Susie?
Oh gosh, I think for the two, I go, different feedback from my two films because one was I call it a joyful look at Alzheimer's. The other one is, it's heavy. But I've received so much response from both of them. Similar, the first one similar to everyone here that it said, that's my story, that's my mom. You think it's so you think that your details, the details that you're telling your story are details to you. And yes, they are, but the universality is in the details, right? So that I mean, I have letters framed that I've framed because they've moved me. So they're the gifts that you get. And then so we just launched this documentary, like you said, on August 1st, and every I was looking for one while you were talking because I get emails every day saying, wow, I just watched this documentary. Thank you so much. This happened to us. Or I'm going through it right now. And I thought that it was just me. I thought that I was alone. I am, or I got one from a woman who said, I watched your entire documentary because it's three parts the night. And then the next day, my mom passed away.
Wow.
And she said, I cannot tell you how much it helped me to have the information that you provided. And, those are like, those are very emotional emails that I get from people or personal messages that you get and and it happens a lot. So what it tells me is that people are looking to be validated on their journey and to know that they're not alone, and it's very cathartic and it's actually healthy.
Absolutely. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, if you can't remember it, we'll skip it. But I thought recently I saw that a nursing home administrator left a comment on one. Yeah, do you recall exactly the context of that?
I do. I received a couple of them, but this one that you're talking about in particular, not only did he was a CE, he is a CEO and owner of a nursing home or two. I think he owns many. And he said, you know, basically his message to me personally was thank you for doing No Country for Old People. And the gist of it was that he went into watching it and initially was very, negative and was taking it very negatively. And then as it went on, he started to recognize things that I was portraying and showing in the documentary were true.
Right.
And that he said it's time we take accountability for this as owners, and we need to have more transparency. And we need and what he said is I've given or got a pass on. I've made it available for all of my employees, and I've written up question and answers that we can talk about and go through this and have a forum about how we can be better as a facility and step up. And so that was such a win for me, because this is why I'm doing it, besides for other people, but we want to reform the industry.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah. And if we're I told my partner, Rick Mountcastle, when we first started this, I said, we're not going to change it by giving facts and figures. We're going to change it by touching people's hearts. If I could touch their hearts, then we have a chance.
Yeah.
And I think that we did.
Absolutely. I know you did. And I know you call it a win. I call it making a difference. Tomato, but it's doing what it's supposed to. So thank you for that, Susie. Marianne, how about for Frank? Do you know of any feedback he's received from his film?
I can't really speak to that.
Okay.
Lance, I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't know. I know that he's had, positive feedback to it.
Yeah.
But, and it's been out for a while. So, yeah, I can't really speak to that.
All right.
I just need to bring up one thing. I'm sorry. Susie, don't you guys also have a fairly robust impact campaign that's kind of hoping to get some political clout behind it, right?
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. Roar is a movement that we launched because we thought, when we were doing this project, thought, how can we do this information dump, really, and then have people go, okay, but what happens? What do we do about this, right? Because that was the first question I asked Rick Mountcastle, who's a former federal prosecutor and prosecuted nursing homes for decades. And I said, well, what's the answer? And he was like, that's a good question. And so we had to come up with we had to have a call to action, and that's ROAR, because I really believe that anything that's been significant changes in our society, for hundreds of years has been through the collective and through the power of the collective. And it takes that kind of community, whether it's community on the road, on a blog, whatever it is, but a national community to say, well, maybe we can't fight the big pockets and the deep pockets, but we can as constituents. Absolutely. And so ROAR stands for Respect, Oversight, Advocacy, and Reform in Long-Term Care. And whoever joins this group, we are roariers, and we are roaring for the people that don't have a voice to roar with. So it's really important that we use our voices and make a change already, because it's been too long. Thank you.
Thank you, Susie. Real quick, and Kitty, thank you for bringing that up. Where would you like people to go, Susie, to get involved with the ROAR campaign?
Yeah, right now go to our website, which is nocountryforoldpeople.com, and there's a tab, which is the ROAR movement. And there's information there, and then you can actually sign up and tell us what you're interested in terms of your advocacy, how that works for you. And we'll take all the help we can get, and the sooner the better. So I invite you to come and be a part of this movement.
Absolutely. Thank you, Susie. Kitty, how about for you? Can you share any of the feedback that you've received for your film that's really stood out or more significant to you?
Yeah, I collect those responses too because I tend to use them in like impact campaigns at the end of the year and let people know, people who have invested in the film. It's just been overwhelmingly thank yous.
Mm.
Just thank you. And it's funny because mom lost a lot of her vocabulary pretty early on, but she, until the very end, kept this Marilyn Monroe thank you that you give her a cup of coffee or a cup of hot cocoa and she'd go, thank you. Every time I read some of these emails that I get, I hear mom's little voice going, thank you. I feel seen and heard. Um, yeah, it's just it's people that just feel so isolated, and I think they're reminded, or maybe they know for the very first time when they see the film, that there's 16 million plus of dementia family caregivers just in the US.
Mm.
Trust me, you're going to find two or three of them that you can talk to. Even if it's not in your community, if it's on Zoom, if it's in a support group. Um, and that's huge for people. And I think it's also every once in a while I'll get a comment where it's like, now I'm even more scared, but I appreciate the information because a lot of what we talk about are just the typical things that happen, like the rage stage or like the incontinence and, the funny things that people with dementia do. In the end, when you feel, gee, I hope my person doesn't wake up in the morning. And gee, I'm so afraid my person isn't going to wake up in the morning. What's that feel like as someone who you've now devoted your life to getting this person to the end of theirs, and you're really conflicted about it. So it's just, I love all the feedback. I even got one a couple of months ago that said horribly disgusting. So clearly they did not care for the film whatsoever.
Mhm.
It's, I just want people to see it and take what they need from it and be angry about it if my film distracts them from being angry at their person or at their life for a couple of days, fine. It's still of use. So,
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's unfortunate. It's maybe somebody that's just angry at everything too, right? I mean, there's people like that out there. But
yeah.
before we go to our last question here, I just want to thank each of you and Marianne and Christy for giving you guys a platform, and all of you know we'll do whatever we can to always support each of you however we can from our side. But thank you for taking on this project because Susie, I think it's been 2+ years we've been talking about No Country for Old People, and I'm not going to say I was as happy as you, Rick and Don, but I was right up there when I saw the film was being released August 1st, and just so proud for you guys because like I said, it's going to make a difference. It is making a difference, and that's why that film needed to get out there. And the same with each of your films, all of you, you're doing such great work. Marianne started it by, AlzAuthors is about books, but AlzAuthors, I think, is so much more than just books. It's a community, it's a community, and, they're helping to support all of these, countless millions of caregivers out there who may not know where else to go or where to find the help and support because they're not getting it in their local communities. So, I applaud you guys. You're my heroes. And anytime we can help you guys with anything, just send us an email. If you have my number, send me a text. But I want to kind of close it out and, thank AlzAuthors for allowing this, film festival event. And I just want to ask you guys, how you've been involved with AlzAuthors aside from the film, or what AlzAuthors has meant to each of you. And Chuck, we're going to start with you.
Sure. Thank you. And thank you again, Marianne and Christy, for this opportunity. Um, I stumbled across them just in searching different things that when I initially got into this space, I didn't know anything, anybody, which is how the documentary came about, is because I didn't realize that I didn't know anything about dementia. So I searched everything I could and stumbled across it as an author of 21 books and counting. And so anything that goes with storytelling, whether it's film, whether it's books, whether it's art, interests me. And so when I did come across them on the internet and reached out and began that conversation. Thankfully, they did support our conference this year and gave a giveaway basket, yeah, which was amazing as well. And then several of the authors that are a part of All's Authors have become friends. And so I think we're building relationship, and I'm going to continue to support them as we build this community to make a difference. And little side note, and thanks again to Susie and Kitty for being a part of our film festival at the conference this past March as well. So it's about celebrating the people who are doing things and encouraging other people to get involved and tell stories, whether it's their personal stories or other stories. And that's what All's Authors is doing. And so I'm really appreciative. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Absolutely. And thank you.
Thank you.
You know, I just want to make one correction here, Chuck. You just said 21 books, 3 films, a conference. I'm going to start using your Hollywood name if it's all right.
Go for it.
You know, before I go on, Chuck, do you have any projects that you want to, share that might be coming up in the future?
Sure. Which one? I don't know. We stay busy because that's our way of being advocates and really making a difference. I do have a play that's based around mental health. We actually have 2, but the one I'm referring to now is called God Guys, and it deals with mental health issues in Black males. And we'll be going to the island of St. Martin, with my co-producer, Nate Stubbs, and our team to do the production there. And then with Remember Me, the documentary, we're doing a 5-part series. So we'll be able to spend more time on specific areas, such as the caregiver journey, such as what's coming up with Alzheimer's research, and looking more at some of the other types of dementia, which aren't often talked about. So we do have a lot going on. We're also doing our first anthology. We're doing a caregiver anthology that we'll be releasing in November. So just super excited about a lot of the opportunities that have been created to make a difference.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing that, Chuck. We appreciate it and all the work you're doing. Mary, I want to go to you. Can you tell us what being a part of All's Authors has meant to you, and do you have any exciting projects on the horizon?
Well, I don't even remember how many years I've been involved. I know we have a 10-year anniversary, but I was introduced, I believe, by Trin Rose, a fellow author, and she connected me with Jean, who is one of the founders, correct? Correct me if I'm wrong. Who just was so nurturing and to me in terms of all that you do, welcoming me as a person who did not have a family member with this disease, but who spent decades working with people with this disease and their families. And I just felt so welcome because it's not just about books. As we see now, it's about films and all the arts. And the fact that that was my focus, the arts were my focus, that was very welcomed. To take a little drink. And so I felt that, and I feel that this is a home, this is a community, this is a family. And as an artist, I'm often working on my own, except with the film was different. And I feel like I have this family, and I'm just thrilled about that. And they love different perspectives on this situation. And so I've been involved in their anthology with some poetry that I had in there. I am currently involved in a book that they're doing with illustrations that I've offered from the people that I worked with doing art, and I'm excited about that. And I'm just always trying to get involved with what's going on with them because I know it has integrity and good vibes, so to speak, and I'm so proud and honored to be part of that.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you, Mary.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. And in terms of my own projects, I decided to take my play and turn it back to its original title, which will be revealed. But at the time, nobody wanted to hear this title. It was a play that went on in New York in 2004 in a festival. But that was the only person that would even deal with this because nobody deals with that. Nobody wants to hear about that. I'm going to return it to that title because I think it deserves that. Also, I'll be attending the Alzheimer's Disease International conference in Lyon, France this year. And last year I had the opportunity to present through video an event, my research on theater as public forum and art in the world, and show how theater can help caregivers and persons with dementia. So I'm going to send out a proposal. My fingers are crossed, a different proposal, but I'm going no matter what. Because the experience of seeing people from all over the world and how the culture and how people with different cultures deal with this was such a humbling and eye-opening experience. So that's what I'm working on right now.
Wonderful, Mary. Well, thank you. How about for you, Susie? What's AlzAuthors meant to you, and do you have any other exciting projects on the horizon?
Well, yes, and yes. Well, I think I met Marianne. I don't even remember how when I started my podcast, Love Conquers Alls, and it's been 5 years now. And I know you were one of my first, one of the first people that in the first year, and you came to me, and you were so gracious and welcoming, and it was during COVID, and my partner and I were doing a totally different project outside of Alzheimer's, which was a podcast it was a comedy horror. And I thought, Marianne will never listen to this. It was a podcast. And you listened to the whole thing, didn't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I was like, I love this woman. She is. And you also introduced me to the power of Moby Dick. Am I right? Was it you that told me about that? Maybe not. Maybe it was something else. But anyway, let's go back to I Love Lucifer, which was I just surprised me. And I thought this, you would think that we have nothing in common, and yet we have so much in common. Mm-hmm. And you're this organization, AlzAuthors, who I've become like you were saying, Mary, friends with other people. That I'm not an author. I am a playwright as well, and did something called Forever Young based on assisted living. And so I have done that, but I'm not an author. And yet I've been embraced by you and your community, and I find it very important. And so it's reciprocal. And Lance, get out of town, because you are the most supportive person I've ever met. Like, you're just ridiculous. Like, it's hard to believe that he's authentic, because he's so yummy and so nice and so true blue. Like, you are there. You are a man of your words. And then, Chuck, you I've just met recently because you invited my film, My Mom and the Girl, to be in your film, in your conference, in your festival. Well, it's not a festival, but a conference. And I wasn't able to go because I was in the thick of doing our documentary, but I really appreciate your spirit. And it's just, look at this. And Kitty, you and I have met like at least 4 years ago, when we were just finishing up your documentary, I believe.
Yeah. You and Rick, right?
Don, my partner, Don.
Don, yeah, and Roseanne. You guys watched I needed to look at the first rough cut, and you guys
and you're just I love like the consistency. Mary, I've just met you now for the first time, I think. So
no, actually not.
No,
I remember where I met you. I was doing a workshop in creative writing for caregivers, and you showed a film in Van Nuys, California, through Alzheimer's LA, Alzheimer's LA.
Alzheimer's Los Angeles.
Yes. It was the year before COVID.
Yes.
Right before. They haven't had that conference since. And I met you there briefly. And so when I saw you and I saw you in your film, I thought, I've met her before. So
Oh,
so
that's so
again,
amazing.
yeah.
Yes, because they were big supporters of ours. And so yeah, I worked really closely with Alzheimer's. Shout out to Alzheimer's Los Angeles. They're awesome. And
Yes.
yeah, and so, and Christy, I've just met you now, and you are also like just really in it, and like, but so authentic. So I feel very honored to be, a part of this community. I think we have an incredible community. I think AlzAuthors has supported so many people, and I would do anything for you guys. I just love you, and yeah, I can't say enough about them. They're slow and steady, always there just there.
Mhm.
There are 60 million now. It was 50 million 5 years ago, caregivers, right? Yeah. And I saw a lot of people go in and out,
Right.
you know, and I know there's a lot more than right here on the screen, but right here on the screen are really dedicated caregivers, whether you're still caregiving or not, you're still caregivers. And so I really respect you all and love you. So thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Susie.
Susie.
Can I mention one more thing about Al's authors? It's amazing. It amazes me I know how, well, I don't know totally because I'm not doing it with you, but it's amazing how much work you must do to put together something like the podcast, the film festival, the newsletter. You're, it's just, I'm in awe of the work that you do, and I respect so much the work that you do to keep this going.
And it's sweat equity. So if anybody's listening or watching, you can send them money and support.
Yes.
They could use it.
Nonprofit.
Thank you.
Nonprofit.
Thank you. Definitely all volunteer led and run. And I just wanted to say one thing, Lance, thank you so much for giving us this platform and having all of these folks here. I am just so amazed at the richness and the breadth of topics that these films are going to present, but this around the central theme. But I mean, we go from fiction, nonfiction, documentary. We talk about stigma. We talk about self-awareness. We talk about vital concerns in our systems of care. And I am so grateful that we wrap up with, Chuck, what you're bringing about the story around grief. And one of the things you said that popped out for me so much is, these anniversaries we experience after the loss are so palpable. And so the rituals around holidays, birthdays, all kinds of things. And so leaving us with something, you're giving us the present at the end to talk about, how we can maintain ourselves as we move on through this. So one of our taglines in Al's Authors is our stories make us stronger. So I'm so appreciative to all of these stories.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said, Christy. I want to go to Kitty, and we're going to close with Mary Ann. Kitty, what's Al's Authors meant to you, and do you have any other new exciting projects that you're working on?
I believe Al's Authors, yeah, you guys highlighted my blog probably within the first year of me writing, and that was so appreciative. I never expected anybody to read it, and then all of a sudden I have this organization, Al's Authors, has put Stumptown Dementia on their website, so it was really exciting. It's a pleasure to be a part of this with all of you advocates. This is, it was a tough journey to start with. And it's tough to stay in it. Not a lot of people want to hear about dementia, but we're all just the tsunami is here, and we're all just trying to make it better for the next group, and they'll come to our stories eventually. But right now we're saying, hey, it's not too late to kind of change things. You may hit us later. In 5 years, it may be too late. So, come on over and listen to what we're saying now. As far as other projects, I'm still working very hard on getting Wine Women and Dementia out there. We're doing a lot with ADRCs and the AAAs around the country. So that's been really wonderful because they're the direct line to the caregivers in their counties. But my dream, I would love to take some of those blog posts, and I would love to turn it into a narrative series.
Mm.
I think of it as like 3 seasons tops, since the beginning of dementia, the middle of dementia, and the end of dementia. And one thing I'm don't like about my film is it's not very diverse, and there's so many different what African Americans are the top, and then come the Mexican Americans, or maybe it's switched, and I don't have that kind of representation in the friends that I made. And I would love to do a series where we could open that up. We could take some of these stories and create, a half-hour dramedy, but also set it maybe around a support group,
Yeah.
so all the voices are represented. Um, I just think if we could bring something to the mainstream that they could finally at least start digesting some of the information, then that would just be so incredibly helpful, because we're in this for what, the next 20, 30 years with the baby boomers.
Yeah.
This isn't going away. It's just getting bigger. And that would be a dream. However, I still have to make a rent payment. So
We'll figure it out though.
okay. All right, Chuck. But yeah, it's a pleasure to be with all of you and get to be part of this community. It's amazing.
Yes, it is. And always good to see you, Kitty. Well, Marianne, we're going to close with you. What is AlzAuthors meant to you?
Oh my goodness. Wow. Well, as most people here know, we intended AlzAuthors to be a 1-month project back in 2015, and we are still here. And I appreciate everybody here on the screen. I appreciate all of the work that you do, and I appreciate you sharing it with us and with everyone. Really, we're here to be a platform to give people a place to put their stuff. When I started, after I wrote my book and pushed it out into the world, and it's a book about Alzheimer's, and nobody cared about it or wanted to know about it. One of the things I was told was that you have to have a platform. And I had no platform. Who was I? I was just this independent author out there who had published one book. So I said, well, I don't have a platform, so why don't I build one? And that's how we got started with Vicki and Jean, and that 1-month project that ended up being what it is today, in many ways bigger than what we ever expected. So it means a lot to me. I've devoted so much of my time and energy into it these last several years, and there's always a new project on the horizon. I was thinking about that this morning, how sometimes I just start to get a little bored and I think, oh, I need a new project. What can I do next? So the film festival is the current project. And we do have something else in the works that Mary alluded to, which is our 6-word memoir book, which is called Sharing Our Stories Makes Us Stronger. And a couple of years ago, we had solicited these little 6-word memoirs from our community on their dementia journey. And what it is you tell your story using only 6 words. It sounds like it's hard, and it is, but once you get going, people don't stop. We've had people submit dozens. So it's just meant to be a little book that people can pick up and breeze through, when they have a moment here or there. It's not anything that's going to consume their day, but just try to get a little bit of inspiration or knowledge or insight. So that's what we're working on next. And I really enjoyed this little love fest at the end for AlzAuthors. Lance, thank you so much. I didn't expect it. I did not expect it. And it's, we're here and we do what we do. And it's often met with silence, but we know that people are out there, people are reading, and people are listening and watching. And so just to have, a few voices, give us our round of applause. It means a lot to us. I appreciate the feedback. Thanks, everybody.
Absolutely. Well, guys, thank you so much for your time. We're looking forward to sharing the link. Go to alzauthors.com, get registered for the film festivals. The dates are on the website. to show
Yes.
which films are going to be shown when, but sign up for all of them because they're all going to be really great. And like I said, I've seen Kitty's and Susie's, and they're just phenomenal movies, as I'm sure Chuck's is and Frank's and Mary's are. But thank you guys for all the work you are doing and doing it every day, not just occasionally. We appreciate you, support you, and we're here to help however we can when you need us.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you so
Lance.
Thank
much
you
for
so
having
much.
us.
All you do.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everybody.
everybody.
Bye, guys.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us today here at All Home Care Matters. All Home Care Matters is here to help families as they navigate these long-term care issues. We invite you to visit us at allhomecarematters.com, where there's a private, secure, fillable form where you can give us feedback, show ideas, or if you have questions. Every form is read and responded to. And remember, you can listen to the show on any of your favorite podcast streaming platforms or watch the show on our official YouTube channel. Just make sure that you hit that subscribe button so that you never miss an episode. We'd also like to say thank you again to our friends from AlzAuthors and the remarkable filmmakers who joined us today. We look forward to seeing you again here at All Home Care Matters.
Thank you for joining us today. We look forward to you joining us again on another episode of All Home Care Matters. To learn more about the show and to connect with us, visit us at allhomecarematters.com.